Sure. I actually started at a small PR company. I was actually working for Famous Grouse Whiskey on their sponsorship of Team Scotland way back actually in kind of 97, 98. And that led me into having an opportunity to work at a sports management company. So I had a great opportunity to work with a load of high profile athletes around the Sydney Olympics. That was the kind of start of my career. Joined GMR in 2009 as a client services director and have been here ever since. And I took over the role of MD a couple of years ago. Well, I sit obviously here in the UK as part of the kind of global leadership team in the agency, but I have overall responsibility basically for the 70 odd staff that we have here based in London. Everything from management of the day-to-day P&L through to HR, recruitment, client servicing, everything in between really. So overall responsibility for everything that happens really in the office here in London. Sure. Well, it started really as earlier in the year. We were having a bit of an internal brainstorm, trying to tick a number of boxes from, how do we go about finding the very best talent that's out there? How do we go about doing something that would give us some mileage as far as a kind of brand exercise is concerned and some PR? But I think also, actually, one of the main motivations that I had was we really wanted to try and, I think, dig under the surface a little bit about what the industry entails. I think everyone sees sponsors being involved in very, very large scale events, but I think what's probably misunderstood still is the actual work that goes on behind the scenes to make that happen. And I think we were looking for something that kind of tried to tick all those different boxes for us, and in the end, this was an idea that really came to the fore off that really. So. Not really. I mean, we wanted to try and definitely make sure there was some sort of interaction with the public, and our partners actually with Sports Business Group were great in allowing us to do that. But we were only really allowing them to select one person out of the final three that then went forward to the final round. So I think there was always a bit of fail-safe kind of built into that process to make sure that we were getting the very best candidate available to us. It was a long process and great credit to him for coming out on top. I think, when we started this, I think the thing that I was looking for more than anything else was personality. I think, we really wanted somebody that was going to have the right personality and kind of get up and go to go around the world and be our representative on the ground. But I think that kind of led us, I think, naturally to having somebody that would culturally fit, with inside the organisation. So those two things were the sort of things that I was looking for, and I think also, one of the reasons why we made sure that there was a very robust kind of 90-second, video that people required to kind of submit as part of their application was. We also wanted to make it very clear that this was a serious job. Hopefully it's going to be a great experience for Ollie and something that he'll never forget. But it was also important that we didn't come across as this just being, a jolly that people were just going to go around the world and visiting all these great events. So, the knowledge and work bit was really, really important as well as that kind of personality and character. I think perseverance probably. I think, like a lot of young guys, when I was coming out of university, it was something that I always wanted to do, but it is a very, very small industry actually. And I think there are a lot of people trying to get into it for obvious reasons. So I think you have to persevere and keep going. I think I didn't actually start in core sport in my career, and I think many people that I've come into contact with, it's not something that you necessarily start your career with. But I think any kind of experience around the whole marketing mix, whether that's PR, whether that's digital, whether that's creative, to get you into the industry. I think one of the great things about the sponsorship industry, it really cuts across that entire marketing spectrum. So I would say don't necessarily become fixated on the sports bit. Try and find something that is applicable then in our world, and I think that's with a bit of perseverance and dedication, I think you can get there. Well, I think certainly, I mean, you think the kind of continuation of kind of social and digital in our world, I think, really since the Olympics, that's been the one thing that I think has really exploded. From going from, it was only a few years ago now, under 4 years, that I remember that the IOC didn't really have a charter for the way that athletes were going to manage social media from inside the village. And if you think back just to London Games, it was the first time that we had communication really between athletes and their public. Which is amazing really to think about that when you think about where we are now. So I think that certainly is going to continue, and I think sponsors are finding smarter and smarter ways of being able to use social and digital to kind of reinforce the partnerships that they have with an athlete or a rights holder. But I think from our side of things, I think we're also very keen to continue working with clients around digital and automated solutions. I think we do a lot of work in large event space environment where having the ability to much more track and manage and target your client base to make sure that your reporting and your ROI is robustly underpinning what you're doing, I think is becoming better than it's ever been. And I think certainly we're advising our clients that the continuation of trying to determine that ROI and value of what getting from their sponsorships is it continues to be a key priority for us. Well, I wouldn't necessarily kind of caveat it out from, in sport. I think, being a good leader is arguably being a good leader. I mean, for me, I do a lot of listening. I think that's quite important. I think leaders can sometimes forget to listen. I operate a pretty flat structure here at the agency and like people to be able to give opinion. I think that's really, really important. Ultimately you need to have a good team around you, but I try and make myself as accessible and available as possible, and I think that's one thing that the sports industry actually does really, really well. There's not a lot of airs and graces about it, as there may be in some other industries. So I like that about it, and as I say, try and do a lot of listening, because I think that's quite important.